These bikes are gathering dust in showrooms, but they might be the smartest rides you'll ever miss out on. Dealers can't move them, riders skip them, and yet they're some of the smartest, toughest, and most reliable motorcycles you can buy in 2025. Cheap, underrated, and shockingly good. Today, we're breaking down 17 motorcycles nobody's buying, yet every rider should. And first up is a BMW that proves how badly the market gets it wrong. At number 17, BMW G310R. This is the BMW that no one seems to buy, yet it's shockingly capable. The BMW G310R is the entry-level BMW, a 313 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled single, putting out approximately 33.6 brake horsepower and 28 Newton-meters torque. It's built in India through BMW's partnership with TVS, and it wears the badge with prestige. But in 2025, sales are painfully modest. Riders often skip it in favor of flashy Japanese bikes or established commuter brands. Why does it struggle? First, expectations. You see BMW and you expect luxury, electronics, performance. The G310R gives you neat handling and quality, but no fireworks. In contrast to its premium badge, it doesn't overwhelm in torque or toolkit. Many buyers would rather buy a cheaper bare-bones bike with more grunt. Also, compared to rivals in the 300 to 400cc class, it lacks features. No traction control, no full-color display, simpler ABS. But here's the thing, just because few people buy it doesn't mean it's bad. It's light, wet weight approximately 158.5 kilograms, handles well in city traffic, and carries build quality rare in entry bikes. In markets where brand matters, someone who wants a BMW badge at low risk might pick it. It's underrated in used markets too, because people trade them in fast. The risk, because it doesn't sell, dealers don't stock spare parts widely, and resale can fade if brands ignore it. But for someone who cares more about riding experience and prestige than spec wars, it's a sleeper steal. Waiting lists? None. Hype? Almost zero. But if your camera catches one in a showroom, it often sits there for weeks. That's exactly the kind of ignored gem we want to expose. Ignored for years, yet secretly one of the cheapest ways to wear a BMW badge. Wait until you see Suzuki's budget sport bike that deserved far better. At number 16, Suzuki GSX 250R. If there's a bike that screams underrated, it's the Suzuki GSX 250R. On paper, it should have been a winner. Sporty looks, a trusted brand name, and beginner-friendly power. But in reality, riders barely give it a glance, and sales across North America and Europe in 2025 remain modest compared to its rivals like the Kawasaki Ninja 400 or Yamaha R3. Why does this happen? Because the GSX 250R plays it too safe. It's powered by a 248 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine producing around 24 horsepower. Calm, reliable, but far from exciting. The Ninja 400 throws down nearly double that, while the R3 delivers a sportier kick. So in the showroom, when buyers compare spec sheets, the Suzuki just feels slow. And slow doesn't sell when you're in the sport bike aisle. But here's the twist. Being slow isn't the same as being bad. The GSX 250R is smooth, fuel efficient, close to 76 miles per gallon US/32 kilometers per liter, and easy to handle for first-timers. It doesn't try to scare you, and that makes it arguably a better learner bike than its punchier competitors. In real city traffic, you're not maxing out a Ninja anyway. You're dodging potholes and lights. And for that, the Suzuki works just fine. Owners who do buy them often rave about comfort. The riding position is more relaxed than most small sport bikes, making it easier for daily commutes. And maintenance? Dead simple. It doesn't chew through parts, and Suzuki's reliability record stands strong. So why is it here? Because it's ignored. Riders want bragging rights and big horsepower figures, and the GSX 250R doesn't deliver that thrill on paper. But if you actually ride it, you'll find a dependable, cheap-to-run sport bike that's criminally overlooked. Smooth, efficient, and one of the easiest learner bikes you could own. Yet buyers call it boring. But Honda's forgotten 300 proves even well-rounded gems can vanish. At number 15, Honda CB300F. Here's a Honda you almost never see on the road, the Honda CB300F. Released as the affordable naked sibling to the CB300R, it should have been a hit. Cheap price tag, reliable Honda build, and a 293 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine making about 24 horsepower. On paper, it looks like the perfect starter or commuter bike. In 2025, however, its sales remain a whisper compared to Honda's big sellers, like the Shine 125 or even the CB500X. Why does it flop? One word: overshadowed. Riders looking for performance stretch for the CB300R or KTM Duke 390. Commuters, on the other hand, drop down to cheaper 150 to 200cc bikes that deliver similar practicality at lower cost. That leaves the CB300F stuck in the middle, too plain for enthusiasts, too pricey for budget buyers. But here's the kicker: the CB300F is secretly one of Honda's smartest bikes. It's comfortable with upright ergonomics, light enough at 153 kilograms, and has a surprisingly refined ride quality. Fuel economy is solid, hovering around 30 to 32 kilometers per liter, 70 plus miles per gallon US. It's also backed by Honda's vast dealer network, meaning parts and service are never an issue. In markets like India, where it's locally produced, the CB300F undercuts some rivals on cost while still delivering Honda's bulletproof reliability. Owners who give it a chance love the balance. It's not aggressive, but it's not boring either. It's the kind of bike that just works, whether you're commuting, learning, or cruising at relaxed highway speeds. So why is it ignored? Because it doesn't shout. No flashy specs, no wild marketing, no brag-worthy top speed. And in 2025, silence kills sales. The CB300F quietly sits in showrooms, waiting for the rare buyer who values practicality over hype. Comfortable, economical, and built with Honda quality, this bike just works. And yet, it's overlooked, just like Kawasaki's retro single that deserved more love. By the way, if you're into finding hidden gems that most riders overlook, hit subscribe now. We've got plenty more underrated bikes coming up that you don't want to miss. At number 14, Kawasaki W175. Kawasaki doesn't usually play in the cheap retro segment, but when they did with the W175, almost nobody noticed. It's a simple, air-cooled 177 cubic centimeter single, making about 13 horsepower, paired with a 5-speed gearbox. On the surface, it looks like a vintage throwback. Round headlamp, spoked wheels, flat seat. The kind of bike that should charm buyers who love classics, but don't want the bulk or price of something like a Royal Enfield. So why is it invisible in 2025? Because it lives in the shadow of those very Enfields. Riders shopping for a retro single overwhelmingly lean toward Royal Enfield's Hunter 350 or Classic 350, both of which come with stronger brand recognition, more power, and far bigger communities. That leaves the W175 sitting on showroom floors, often treated like an afterthought. But here's the twist: as a motorcycle, it's genuinely good. It's light at just 126 kilograms, which makes it perfect for city riding. Fuel efficiency is strong, maintenance is simple, and Kawasaki's build quality is there. In fact, some owners praise it for being less intimidating than the Enfields, while still delivering that old-school charm. It's essentially the kind of bike you could learn on, commute with, and keep for weekend fun, without the heavy clutch or tall weight of larger retros. The tragedy? Riders overlook it because Kawasaki didn't market it heavily outside Southeast Asia, and even where it's available, dealerships don't push it hard. With limited visibility, it becomes a forgotten retro, despite having everything a practical buyer would want. Would you pick a lightweight Kawasaki over a Royal Enfield if it did the same job for less? Let us know in the comments. Lightweight, efficient, full of charm. A simple bike done right, but riders skip it, and Yamaha's stubborn retro shows the same fate awaits even classics. At number 13, Yamaha SR400. The Yamaha SR400 should be a cult classic, yet in 2025, it's basically basically a ghost. This bike has been around for decades, carrying the same formula, a 399 cubic centimeter air-cooled single that makes about 24 horsepower, a 5-speed gearbox, and kickstart charm. On paper, it's the definition of a reliable retro motorcycle, but on showroom floors, it barely moves. Why? Because Yamaha refused to modernize it. While rivals like Royal Enfield updated their retro singles with fuel injection, better brakes, and refined ergonomics, the SR400 stuck stubbornly to its old-school roots. That's great for purists, but terrible for mass sales. Riders walk into a showroom and see a price tag higher than a classic 350, but with less comfort, fewer features, and a Kickstarter that feels like punishment in 2025. And yet, those who buy it absolutely love it. The SR400's simplicity is unmatched. It's light, easy to handle, and oozes vintage character. Its single-cylinder engine is famously bulletproof, running for decades with basic hair. Customizers adore it too. It's a blank canvas for cafe racers, scramblers, or bobbers. The problem? That custom scene is niche, while mainstream riders want plug-and-play practicality. In markets like Japan and select parts of Europe, a few still trickle out of dealerships, but globally, it's drowned out by bikes that offer more power and modern convenience at the same or lower price. That mismatch between nostalgia and reality explains why sales lag so far behind. The irony is that the SR400 may be one of the most reliable and characterful budget retros out there, yet it remains one of the least bought. Reliable, timeless, and nearly indestructible, an icon riders should celebrate. Instead, they walk past it, just as they did Honda's rock-solid 250 sport bike. At number 12, Honda CBR 250R. The Honda CBR 250R should have been a slam dunk in the lightweight sport bike market, but in 2025, it's basically vanished from riders' minds. Launched as Honda's answer to the Ninja 250 back in the day, the CBR 250R had the looks of a mini supersport, a smooth 249 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine producing around 26 horsepower, and Honda's legendary build quality. So what went wrong? Timing. By the time the CBR 250R entered the market, Kawasaki had already upped the ante with the Ninja 300, and Yamaha later rolled out the R3. Suddenly, the Honda's calm, modest power delivery felt underwhelming compared to competitors. Riders who wanted thrills went elsewhere. Even in developing markets like India, it was priced too high for commuters, but too tame for sport bike fans. That left it stranded between categories, an orphan bike. But here's the kicker. The CBR 250R is actually very good. It's smooth, beginner-friendly, and reliable enough to run forever with minimal maintenance. Its ergonomics are relaxed compared to the aggressive R3 or KTM RC390, making it surprisingly comfortable for longer rides. It also offers excellent fuel economy for its class, often delivering over 30 kilometers per liter, 70 miles per gallon US, which makes it one of the most economical small sport bikes Honda has ever produced. Owners who have them praise the bike's forgiving handling and low cost of ownership, and while it may not light up spec sheets, it does exactly what many riders secretly want. It works every day without drama. The tragedy is that reliability doesn't sell showroom hype. The CBR 250R became invisible because riders chase numbers, not dependability. And that's why this underrated Honda collects dust while flashier models sell out. Smooth, fuel-saving, and bulletproof reliable. Everything a small sport bike should be, and still forgotten, just like Suzuki's ultra-practical commuter up next. At number 11, Suzuki Inazuma 250. The Suzuki Inazuma 250 is one of those bikes that came and went without anyone noticing, and that's a shame because it's much better than its sales suggest. With a 248 cubic centimeter parallel twin producing around 24 horsepower, a 6-speed gearbox, and a reputation for bulletproof reliability, it should have been a commuter's dream. Yet in 2025, it's largely forgotten, with only a small cult following keeping the name alive. Why did it flop? Because Suzuki built a bike that was too practical in a segment where buyers wanted flash. The Inazuma had neutral styling. Some even called it bland. It didn't have the sporty aggression of the Ninja 250 or the R3, nor the rugged charm of a Royal Enfield. To most riders, it just looked ordinary, and in a showroom full of machines designed to stand out, ordinary is the kiss of death. But peel back the dull styling, and you find a motorcycle that was almost perfect for real-world use. It's smooth, incredibly stable at highway speeds for its size, and comfortable enough to ride all day. Fuel economy hovers around 70 miles per gallon US, 30 kilometers per liter, and maintenance costs are laughably low. Owners who actually bought one often keep them for years, swearing it's one of the most dependable bikes they've ever owned. Another overlooked strength is its size. At 182 kilograms, it's heavier than some rivals, which makes it feel planted on the road, less twitchy, and more reassuring for beginners. It's a fantastic training platform, but riders never gave it the credit it deserved. The Inazuma 250 is living proof that being competent isn't enough in the motorcycle world. If you don't excite buyers, you fade. Stable, efficient, and cheap to keep on the road. A true commuter's dream. And yet, riders never cared, just as they ignored Hyosung's surprisingly capable V-twin. At number 10, Hyosung GT250R. The Hyosung GT250R was once hyped as the budget sport bike that could rival the Japanese giants. On paper, it sounded impressive. A 249 cubic centimeter V-twin engine making around 28 horsepower, a full-fairing design that looked like a supersport, and aggressive ergonomics that gave riders the big bike feel. For riders who couldn't afford a Ninja 250 or Yamaha R3, it was supposed to be the perfect alternative. So why does it sit ignored in 2025? Reputation. Hyosung never shook off the stigma of inconsistent quality control and limited dealer support. Riders often complained about cheap components, electrical gremlins, and spare parts that were either hard to source or overpriced. When you're competing against Honda, Yamaha, and Kawasaki, brands with bulletproof dealer networks, that's a losing battle. And yet, here's the twist. For those who took the risk, the GT250R delivered far more than critics admit. The V-twin engine gives it a character most other 200s and 50s lack, with smoother torque delivery and a deeper exhaust note. Its aggressive stance makes it look like a 600 class sport bike, fooling many into thinking it's far more expensive than it actually is. Performance-wise, it isn't bad. It handles highways confidently, feels stable at higher speeds, and can genuinely give newer riders a taste of sport bike excitement at a fraction of the price. The tragedy is that the GT250R became a victim of perception. Buyers wanted reliability first, and Hyosung couldn't promise it. So while the bike itself isn't bad, its poor resale, patchy service support, and brand distrust left it sitting in showrooms. By 2025, it's a forgotten machine that still deserves a second look. Before we move on, if a bike looks and rides great, but the brand has a bad rep, would you still buy it? A sharp-looking V-twin with real character at a bargain price, yet mistrusted into obscurity. And even Honda's dependable 125 couldn't escape the same trap. At number 9, Honda CB125F. The Honda CB125F is the kind of bike you expect to sell in massive numbers. It's cheap, simple, and wears the Honda badge. And yet, in 2025, it's one of the most underappreciated commuters in the global market. It barely registers in sales outside of Europe and Asia, where it's often overshadowed by flashier 125s or scooters that dominate city streets. So why does it struggle? Because it's too safe. Riders walk past it in showrooms because it doesn't have sharp styling like the Yamaha MT125, nor the sporty credentials of the KTM Duke 125. The CB125F looks plain, and in a segment where many buyers are young, style sells more than substance. The irony is that it's one of the most dependable 125s you can buy today. Under the seat, you get a 124 cubic centimeter air-cooled single with Honda's ESP plus fuel-saving tech, producing about 10.9 horsepower. That doesn't sound like much, but paired with its ultra-light frame, 117 kilograms, it delivers incredible fuel economy, often pushing over 60 kilometers per liter, 140 miles per gallon US. Add Honda's bulletproof reliability, low insurance costs, and service networks that span the globe, and you've got a bike that should be flying out of dealerships. Instead, it quietly waits for practical riders to stumble across it. Owners who do buy it love its practicality. It's easy to ride, forgiving for learners, and cheap to keep on the road. For commuting, it's hard to beat, but since it doesn't shout for attention, it gets buried under the noise of sportier options. The CB125F is proof that the market doesn't always reward good engineering. It's a brilliant motorcycle that too many riders dismiss as boring, which is exactly why it's on this list. At number 8, Suzuki TU250X. The Suzuki TU250X is one of those bikes that seems destined to be forgotten, yet it's actually brilliant. With a 249 cubic centimeter air-cooled single producing around 16 horsepower, classic retro styling, and bulletproof Suzuki Suzuki reliability, it should appeal to both beginners and commuters who want something simple. And yet, in 2025, you'll rarely see one leaving a showroom floor. Why? Because it never quite fit into any category. Retro buyers leaned toward Royal Enfield's Classic 350 or Honda's GB 350, while new riders gravitated toward sportier machines like the Yamaha R3 or KTM Duke. The TU250X, with its upright ergonomics and simple round headlamp look, was too plain for style-hungry shoppers. Dealers often skipped stocking it altogether, leaving it invisible to the mainstream audience. But here's the twist. The TU250X may be one of the best beginner bikes Suzuki ever built. It's lightweight at 149 kilograms, incredibly forgiving, and its smooth throttle response makes it ideal for training or daily commutes. It's also one of the easiest bikes to maintain, with simple mechanics that shade tree mechanics love. Owners who kept them often report clocking tens of thousands of miles without major issues. Another overlooked strength is its fuel economy, hovering around 70 to 75 miles per gallon US, 30 plus kilometers per liter. Combine that with a comfortable seat and upright bars, and you get a machine that could carry you through the work week and still be fun for weekend cruises. The problem is that reliability and economy don't sell hype, and without hype, the TU250X quietly gathers dust, while flashier bikes steal the spotlight. The TU250X is the motorcycle equivalent of a reliable friend. Always there, always dependable, but rarely celebrated. Easy, durable, and endlessly reliable. A bike perfect for beginners, but invisible in showrooms, just like Cleveland's fun little cafe racer that never got a chance. At number 7, Cleveland CycleWorks Ace. If you've never heard of the Cleveland CycleWorks Ace, you're not alone, and that's exactly why it lands here. This small displacement retro-styled bike was designed in the US but built overseas to keep costs low. On paper, it seemed like a great idea. A cheap entry-level motorcycle with vintage looks, a 229 cubic centimeter air-cooled engine making around 15 horsepower, and a low seat height perfect for beginners. In 2025 though, it barely registers in sales charts anywhere. The problem isn't that the bike is bad, it's that the brand never got traction. Cleveland CycleWorks struggled with limited dealership networks, inconsistent parts availability, and a lack of mainstream recognition. When a new rider walks into a showroom, they want reassurance that their bike will be easy to service and hold value. With the Ace, that confidence was missing, no matter how charming the bike looked. And that's the tragedy. The Ace is actually a great little motorcycle for urban riding. It's light, maneuverable, and has a style that channels the cafe racer vibe without the price tag. Maintenance is straightforward, and fuel efficiency makes it even more practical. In a world where custom builds are trendy, the Ace gave you that stripped-down, minimalist aesthetic out of the box. Owners who did take the leap often say it's a fun, characterful ride, perfect for city streets and weekend blasts. But with virtually no marketing push and almost no dealer footprint, it was invisible to the majority of buyers. Instead, riders picked well-established brands like Honda or Yamaha for peace of mind. The Cleveland Ace shows how even a good product can fail when brand trust isn't there. It deserved better, but the market simply never gave it a chance. Cool styling, affordable, and fun to ride. An ideal first bike, yet nobody trusted it, just as buyers ignored Yamaha's bulletproof commuter. At number 6, Yamaha YBR125. The Yamaha YBR125 has everything a budget commuter should. Low running costs, bulletproof Japanese reliability, and simple mechanics that anyone can maintain. It's powered by a 124 cubic centimeter air-cooled single that puts out about 10 horsepower, paired with a smooth 5-speed gearbox. On paper, that's the exact recipe that made the Honda Shine and Hero Splendor smash hits in Asia. But in 2025, the YBR125 is barely a blip in the sales charts outside of training schools and a handful of commuter markets. So what went wrong? The YBR125 is dependable, but it never stood out. Riders shopping for a cheap commuter either go for hyper-affordable domestic options like Hero or Bajaj in India, or stylish premium 125s in Europe. The Yamaha sits awkwardly in between, more expensive than the cheapest commuters, less exciting than the premium 125s. That leaves it invisible to both groups. And yet, the YBR 125 is very good. Training schools across Europe still love it because it's forgiving, smooth, and hard to break. Owners praise it for lasting tens of thousands of miles with nothing more than oil changes and chain adjustments. Fuel economy often stretches beyond 100 miles per gallon US, over 40 kilometers per liter, and insurance is dirt cheap. If you actually buy one, you'll discover it's one of the easiest motorcycles to live with. But in a showroom, practicality doesn't grab attention. Shoppers chase style, performance, or bragging rights. The YBR 125 quietly delivers reliability, and for most buyers, that's not enough to justify the price when cheaper locals or sharper-looking rivals are parked beside it. The result? It's a bike destined to be overlooked, despite being one of the smartest commuter buys of its class. At number 5, Kawasaki Ninja 250 SL. The Kawasaki Ninja 250 SL is one of the strangest cases in Kawasaki's lineup. With the Ninja badge, you'd think it would sell by the truckload. A fully fared sport bike with a 249 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine, lightweight frame, and aggressive styling, this should have been the go-to starter sport bike in 2025. Instead, it's nearly invisible in sales charts. The problem? Riders never warmed up to the idea of a single-cylinder Ninja. Most expected the Ninja name to mean a high-revving twin with real punch. The 250 SL makes about 27 horsepower, which is fine for commuting and training, but it feels tame compared to the Yamaha R3 or KTM RC 390. The result? Enthusiasts skipped it, and commuters thought it was too sporty for daily use. It got stuck in no man's land. And yet, if you actually ride one, you'll find a bike that's nimble, light, and shockingly forgiving. At just 151 kilograms, it's one of the easiest Ninjas to handle in traffic or twisty roads. Fuel economy is strong too, making it far cheaper to run than bigger twins. For riders who want a sporty look without the stress of too much power, the 250 SL is almost perfect, but perception kills. Buyers in 2025 still view it as not a real Ninja, and that label is enough to sink it. Dealers often stop stocking them because inventory moves so slowly, which only reinforces the cycle. A capable, affordable sport bike that deserved attention, yet barely anyone gave it a chance. The Ninja 250 SL proves that sometimes even the strongest brand names can backfire when expectations don't match reality. Light, nimble, and fuel efficient. A proper entry Ninja, but dismissed unfairly, just like Suzuki's rugged DR200S that can survive anything. At number 4, Suzuki DR200S. The Suzuki DR200S is a bike built to survive anything. And yet, in 2025, almost nobody buys one. This little dual sport has been in Suzuki's lineup for years, with a 199 cubic centimeter air-cooled single producing about 20 horsepower, simple suspension, and a bare-bones design that screams reliable tool. It's light, cheap to run, and capable of tackling both city potholes and dirt trails. On paper, it should be a no-brainer for commuters and adventurers on a budget. So why does it fail? Because riders overlook it as too basic. In the age of flashy adventure bikes like the BMW GS, or high-tech dual sports like the KTM 390 Adventure, the DR200S feels prehistoric. No ABS, no traction control, no TFT dash. Riders want gadgets, and the DR200S unapologetically offers none. That makes it easy for buyers to skip past it in showrooms, even though it could probably outlast most of the competition with proper care. But here's the truth. The DR200S is a hidden gem. Its lightweight, around 126 kilograms, makes it easy for new riders. Its long travel suspension handles rough roads better than most street bikes, and its simplicity means fewer things to break. Fuel economy sits comfortably above 70 miles per gallon US, 30 kilometers per liter, and its rugged reliability has earned it respect among those who actually own one. It's not glamorous, but it's honest. And for riders who just need a dependable bike that doesn't complain, it's one of the best options under the radar. Unfortunately, honesty doesn't sell bikes. Flash does. The DR200S shows that even when a motorcycle is rugged, cheap, and reliable, the lack of hype can bury it. Tough, light, and endlessly reliable, a dual sport built to last, and yet ignored, just like Honda's beginner-friendly Rebel Cruiser. At number 3, Honda Rebel 300. The Honda Rebel 300 is one of the most beginner-friendly cruisers ever built, but in 2025, sales are lukewarm at best. You'd think a low-seat, lightweight cruiser with Honda reliability would be flying off the shelves. Instead, it's often overshadowed by its bigger sibling, the Rebel 500, and more aggressive entry bikes like the Yamaha MT-03. So why is the 300 ignored? Because buyers see it as the half measure. Riders who want cruisers go for the Rebel 500 for more power and highway confidence. Riders who want cheap commuters often skip to sportier or naked bikes in the same price range. That leaves the Rebel 300 stuck in a weird middle space. And yet, the Rebel 300 is excellent. Its 286 cubic centimeters single delivers smooth, predictable power, making it a perfect starter machine. Its seat height is among the lowest in its class, making it approachable for smaller riders. The handling is stable. Fuel economy averages over 30 kilometers per liter, 70 miles per gallon US, and it has the same customization options as the 500, meaning you can turn it into a bobber, a tourer, or a stripped-down city cruiser. Owners who buy one often hold on longer than they expected because it just works. It's reliable, comfortable, and forgiving. But because it doesn't scream performance or power, it stays under the radar. The Rebel 300 proves that sometimes a great beginner bike gets ignored simply because riders skip straight to bigger, louder machines. At number 2, Yamaha XT250. The Yamaha XT250 has been a quiet hero for decades. This lightweight dual sport packs a 249 cubic centimeter single with about 20 horsepower, bulletproof simplicity, and a reputation for going anywhere. In rural areas, it's still a favorite, but in 2025, it's nearly invisible in sales charts compared to more glamorous adventure bikes. The XT250's problem is that it feels outdated. Riders in 2025 expect features like ABS, TFT displays, or at least a sense of premium. The XT250 gives you none of that. Instead, it gives you durability, low maintenance, and ruggedness. Unfortunately, that's not enough to stand out against modern competition. But here's why it's underrated. It does its job better than almost anything in its class. At 132 kilograms, it's light enough for beginners, yet capable enough for off-road trails. Fuel economy regularly tops 70 miles per gallon US, 30 kilometers per liter. Its long travel suspension makes it more versatile than commuters, and it's one of the few bikes that can handle both farm roads and city streets without breaking a sweat. Owners swear by it as a forever bike, cheap to run, easy to fix, and nearly indestructible. Yet new riders walk right past it in dealerships, drawn instead to flashy KTM and BMW models. The XT250 is proof that a legend can survive decades, but survival doesn't always mean popularity. Durable, versatile, and nearly indestructible, a dual sport legend, but fading in sales, just like our final bike, a quirky, cheap gem riders never understood. At number 1, Suzuki Van 200. The Suzuki Van 200 is the ultimate example of a great bike nobody buys. With its fat balloon tires, low 770mm seat height, and quirky retro styling, it's one of the most unique small bikes ever built. The 199 cubic centimeter air-cooled single makes about 16 horsepower. Nothing wild, but enough for commuting, beach runs, or casual rides. So why is it ignored? Because riders never knew what to make of it. Too quirky for commuters, too underpowered for enthusiasts, and too odd-looking for mainstream tastes. Dealers often struggled to even explain who the Van was for. As a result, it slipped through the cracks of the market. But in reality, the Van 200 is a blast to ride. The wide tires give it stability on sand, dirt, and rough city roads. The engine is smooth, fuel economy averages above 70 miles per gallon US, 30 kilometers per liter, and its featherweight 128 kilogram frame makes it ridiculously easy to handle. For beginners, shorter riders, or those who just want a fun weekend toy, it's nearly perfect. Owners who did take the risk absolutely love it, praising its character and go-anywhere charm. It's a cult bike waiting to happen, but because it doesn't fit neatly into cruiser, commuter, or sport bike categories, it languishes in obscurity. The Van 200 is living proof that sometimes the best, cheap, and good motorcycles never find their audience. 17 great bikes riders ignored. But want to see the flip side? The 17 best-selling motorcycles of 2025 are vanishing from showrooms. Comment your pick, hit subscribe, and click through before they're gone.